Ready Check Radio. What's up, Internet? It's Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and that means here on Ready Check Radio, it's time for the Relic Grind, Final Fantasy XIV Square Enix podcast, and we've got both of those today. Some Final Fantasy XIV stuff, of course, the live letter last Friday. We're going to be reviewing that. We've got other Square Enix stuff all over the board. This is episode 104. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magic Man, as always. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on iTunes, Spotify, Audible, any of those podcast platforms, thank you so much. We appreciate the support. Much love. Give it a like, a subscribe, a review, turn on those notifications, throw a comment there, all the stuff that you got to do to feed Mama and Papa algorithms. And if you like what we do here, tell a friend. If you need to know where, readycheckradio.com, right there on the bottom of your screen. All the socials and the backlog of all of our shows up on the site. Some programming notes. No Faye tonight or next week. She's prepping for MomoCon, much like Yod is. No Gaming Gumbo this Saturday. That's the 20th. I've been asked to commentate Square Enix's Materia Cup for Final Fantasy trading card game from Collector's Cache in Kansas. So, Lenexa, Kansas. So
Great.
That'll be firing day one. We'll be commentating 7 rounds, Gabe Cavalieri and myself, and then another team of awesome individuals from the community commentating Top Cut the following day. So you can check that out. Follow us on Twitter. I will be sure to tweet out from Ready Check Radio and FFTCG Link Shell links to all of the streaming events. So if you want to see some Materia Cup action and my ugly mug commentating, come on over. Following week, 26th, no Gaming Gumbo or Torchwick stream. Torchwick and I will be in Ontario at Red Dragon Shop for a store championship for FFTCG. So lots of stuff going on. Stay tuned to all the socials. On that note, let's introduce our host. It's Mr. Chris Montoya, a.k.a. Tarkoth. What's up, sir?
Greetings, programs. Now, if they want to see your ugly mug, you're still here on the Relic Grind every Thursday.
Every Thursday.
Yeah.
I
am
mean,
a little sad, though.
And we'll be here next Thursday, too. Nothing interferes with that. Why are you a little sad?
Well, apparently my favorite role in Final Fantasy XIV is obsolete. It's not needed for the most strenuous content.
Oh, well,
Crazy.
we'll be sure to get into that and see what the hell you're talking about there. That doesn't sound very Yoshi P at all.
No, that doesn't.
Well,
it sounds awful.
We'll take a peek, but joining us to do it, Mr. Paul Berlin, a.k.a. Flynn. What's up, Flynn?
Hey, there is a live letter maybe want to read.
Oh?
I have been getting back into Dante's Inferno. Well, this is the fault Divine Comedy, and there may be some law implications. Maybe.
Interesting. We'll be sure to cover that as well. Well, I mean, gents, you guys did a little reaction stream during the live letter on Friday. The two of you together. So let's just start there. Initial impressions of the live letter as a whole. No individual specific part of it. We'll give our usual rundown in just a minute. But your impression of the live letter as a whole. Are they kind of still on par with like the latest ones kind of just being, an even keel thing in our opinion? Was this better? Was this worse than they've recently been? What'd you think, Tark?
Let's just say it's a lot more fun having someone there with me for the 3+ hours,
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I would never. I've never done one of those alone and never would. If it's like me and you, cool. If it's, we go over to Mr. Happy's thing, or if it was all three of us, cool, but never by myself. No, God, no.
That and, there was no hour of merchandise sales. So that was thank God it was just done. After it was done, it was done. But it was okay. I mean, it's run of the mill, especially with the second one. They're just kind of rehashing, maybe showing, a few more screenshots. We got the trailer. And we got the classic Yoshi P showing, cards. Why they don't have those on slides to show all the gear and weapons and stuff that they're.
I mean, to be fair, they had some. They had some. But I think it's just usually, it's
Yoshi P, does he
it's
want
tradition at this point, like right?
Interactive. He's all like, "Look, guys, I got this on a card. Put it on the slide."
It's tradition now at this point. I think. What'd you think, Flynn?
Oh yeah, it was fun. Like I said, Tak was saying, it's a lot more fun talking about it in real time and just seeing little bits like, ooh, what's this? What's this? So yeah, it was good. Got me hype. Like I said, it's got me reading. So it definitely left an impression, this live letter.
See, now I kind of want to go back and play Dante's Inferno. What an underrated game.
I know,
Oh,
right?
it was.
I actually got my Dante figure back there. I got the
Yeah.
collector's edition of that. It was-
I mean, it was kind of rightfully underrated because it kind of just like was like, hey, let's do God of
It
War
was-
with a different skin, and it got a bad rap because of that. But I enjoyed
and instead
that
of
game.
Oh, I really
You know,
enjoyed the game as well.
Greek, Christian Catholic, stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, good old Dante.
Good old Dante.
Good old
He's a good guy.
Alighieri.
Wait,
Alighieri. Well, I mean, let's kick it off, gents. Obviously, the trailer dropped, and I'll tell you what, this was one of the better trailers I've seen in a while. Not to say that the previous ones were bad; they're always very, very good at this. But just my boy Golby, like he was, he was front and center throughout this entire thing, and you had to love to see it. You had to love to see it. Absolutely loved this trailer. Really set the stage for the trial with Golbez. Really set the stage. We got a peek at a bunch of it seemed like almost a boss trailer, right? Like we got to see Golbez. We got to see some of the Pandemonium. We got to later we found out, for sure. It was Pandemonium that we were seeing there. And then we saw what looks to be, a huge big ass Kraken. And then some of it looked like the variant dungeon stuff as well. It was just
that was good.
This trailer was custom made for me, right? Show me trailers that show me boss fights and dungeons, and I'm a happy Mike. So I absolutely loved the trailer that they dropped here.
Oh, definitely. So much action, so many red flags as we come to expect.
Yeah, and I think go ahead. We'll let you talk about some of the red flags now. You teased some things with your novel there, so go ahead.
Oh, for me, it's just realizing that this expansion for our endgame stuff, we are dealing with basically the Divine Comedy. We got Pandemonium that is dealing with Inferno, but I think it's going into Purgatory from P10. And then we got, obviously, the Pantheon for Paradiso. But the biggest thing I found funny is when he dropped the name Kakaitis.
Yep.
Kakaitis is the ninth circle of hell. We are fighting him in turn 9. There's definitely something there. Whether it was planned that way or not.
Subtle like a sledgehammer.
Yeah, this is completely out of context because it's from the book, but there's something I've read and it just made me think of La Brea. I found one of you such that for his works, his soul already bathes in Kakaitis, and then his body still seems alive on Earth. Because there's an idea that Electronios, he might be rejoined now because it's there in our time. And passing through the ethereal seed, he might have been able to reconnect his soul a little.
We shall see. There's definitely, Yoshi P isn't subtle when he comes to these types of references to classic literature or mythologies of any type. He's never very subtle. He keeps it a secret and hints at it, but then once it's exposed, you're like, yeah, that wasn't subtle at all. That wasn't subtle at all. Oh, I love the way this trailer ends. I'm enraptured here. When the fade down over the ASEAN half symbol fade in, and then the camera pan down onto Golbez on the throne. Such an awesome trailer. Yeah. Tark, are you prepped? Did this get you hyped? Was this? Did this do it for you to get you started? You still kind of sound a little lukewarm about things.
Maybe it's because I'm still working through my PvP series, that battle pass. I got 4 ranks to go. I don't have to grind it out like I did last one, but once that's done, and then we got a new crafting tiers. There's a lot of work that I need to do once it drops. It's it's hard to get hyped. And maybe
this is the last one before you head to FanFest. This is the last live letter before you go.
It's the last one. Maybe part of the trailer, and maybe it's just me. remember the old days when the trailers were like they would segment it based off the content, so you'd see, they'd say this is the dungeon, and you'd see bits of the dungeon. Like I kind of miss that. Like I don't know what part is what. It's nice to maybe go back and do a video and like, oh, this is from this part. And Flynn and I did that, but sometimes I just get confused about what's what.
That's the point.
Overall,
yeah, that's kind of a fair point. I gotta say though, I think that actually probably comes from not having the sheer amount of story content to drive a trailer like they have in the past, right?
Maybe.
Because the .1, .2, .3, .4, .5 have kind of been like these almost an epilogue to the main story of Scions and a little bit of side stuffy nods to Final Fantasy IV. And if you go back and watch some of those other trailers, there's a lot of dialogue that's included in those between characters that we didn't see a ton of in here. And they kind of piece together a narrative through the trailer and then segment that narrative with, dungeon content and this and this and this. I definitely prefer that, but I don't know if that's, I agree with you. I prefer that, but I don't know how much of that is they're making a stylistic change versus they don't have the story content to do that because they're setting things up for 7.0 and they haven't shown us any of that stuff yet.
Well, if you remember back in A Realm Reborn and Heavensward, those post-launch main story quests, you'd get like 10 quests per per MSQ patch. So now we're down to what? 3, 4, 5. So yeah, there's a lot less to pull from. I was just something that was fishing around in my brain. I'm getting hyped for it. There's just a lot of work once the patch drops, and then maybe this is part of why I'm thankful that the raid is 1 week later, because I can deal with all that stuff and then focus on the raid a week later.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, and then you do have a lot of what was shown coming not right away because it's part of the 4.5, right? The further Hildebrand stuff, the Commanderville weapons, the Splendorous tools, the all that stuff. That's coming in 6.4.5. So you have a little bit of time for that type of stuff before it's going to take effect as well. But running through the actual content of the live letter, let's kind of start with gear, right? Because we got to see the elegant tombstone of comedy gear. Let me pull up the B-roll here for you. There you go. And then we also saw later some of the more, should I say sparkly gear, I guess? I mean, with the gems floating around it and everything. And I gotta say, you had mentioned, Tark, that, and I don't main a healer, so I'm asking here more than saying, this gear looks fine. I like it. It's great. I like the raid gear, right, with the floaty crystals and stuff all around it. But looking at that screenshot, I kind of feel like healers get shafted still. Like it's just, hey, here's another robe. Like here's another robe. Go ahead and put it on. And by the way, you don't have some of the sparklies that other people have. And by the way, some of you aren't going to be able to wear the headgear because you're Rothgar. It's just
so sad.
Is that the case?
The tombstone gear looks good. I think the tombstone gear looks really good.
Yeah.
But like we said with this last tier with the raid gear having particle effects, now you can never go back. You have to have particle effects.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have the particle effects on the raid gear, and they showed that. But the healer, and to maybe a lesser extent the caster gear, is really so basic. It's just like this white gown and maybe a little couple things here, and then they're like trying to make the particle effects the selling point, and I don't think that's anywhere near enough. I mean, I need to be like in a full glow if you're just going to give me a basic dress like that. So again, we get shafted again with the gear choices.
So it's not just me, right? Like I said, I don't main healer, so I'm not active. I do have a max level healer, but I'm not actively like chasing best in slot on that healer every patch. Sometimes I am because that's what my friends need in that particular patch, and then sometimes I'm 2 patches behind because I don't really play it because I'm not needed on that. I'm needed on Black Mage. But just lately, I thought maybe it was just me. It's just like, oh, well, there's another white hospital gown for the healers.
It's something I definitely see a lot just as a casual thing. Like your DPS gear and the tank gear, I'll see that glammed every now and then. I'll see that just as random glam, people run around themselves, running around anyway. but the heathen stuff is always glammed over. It's always something so wildly different to robes.
Yeah.
Like, even with me, when I casually play healer, I made a set of scrubs. Because it's like, yeah, I'd rather look like I'm in scrubs than in robes.
Look, if I'm gonna be dressed like a nurse, I might as well just be a nurse. Give me the scrubs. Give me the scrubs. No huge job changes, no large scale job changes in 6.4, but there are a few. The one I thought was probably the most interesting was a bunch of party buffs have had their radius extended.
Oh, yeah,
So
that is going
make
to be so nice.
30 moms. This is mostly on stuff that like increases damage output of the group or reduces damage taken to the group. Is this more of hey, this needed to be done, Tark? Or is this more of a, you know what, we're starting to make the play space of trials and raid fights bigger, so by necessity this has to be bigger?
Maybe a little bit of both. I mean, I think we started to see that with Astro and their stellar explosion being the size of Montana. So
That's the bit.
So people were wondering, well, why can't they do this for like the bubble or, insert, defensive aura here. And the other part of that is that like when we were doing top, like there were so many times we were split apart, like, and you have to really micromanage where you're putting your buffs and how long they're going to last because you're not going to be all together. So maybe they're trying to eliminate that and make splitting apart from the raid group less of a chore. I don't know, but I'm thankful for it. Less mind-numbing micromanaging of buffs and stuff. So
Paladin's Atonement no longer interrupts a combo when used. Thank God.
Yay!
That's a nice change.
But I will just quickly going back to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Damage buff increase, especially if you do more duty finder based content, you will always have the black mage just out in the middle of nowhere in ley lines.
Hey man, that's where we dropped our ley lines. Deal with it. That's where we put them.
So this is for the ranged people
Mike.
who's like, I'm ranged, I'm going nowhere near the boss, and the black mages who are too stubborn to move.
So you're saying
That's
this
why
is a
he did it.
Yoshi call.
Yeah.
Yoshi P's like, I'm tired of not getting my buffs. Extend this stuff.
Hey, man.
I ain't moving.
Hey,
I'm
man.
curious if it's going to affect like.
That's where I dropped my ley
eyes
lines.
and
You're the
stuff
one
like
that picked healer. Keep me up.
Yeah.
I'm not needed anymore. I'm going DPS. So
Is that the attitude to take? I don't think that's the attitude to take. These are my ley lines. Heal me. Dragoon's jump and high jump is no longer affected by your position when the server checks that position. So both actions can now be performed while bound.
Which is a really good change because
that's a great change.
Yeah, it knocks them out of their source of power.
Yeah.
So, like fights like Rubicanti, when you can't do jump mechanics during purgations, you're just losing so much DPS because you can't generate your power.
And then we get to some PvP changes. Tark, I'm going to let you talk about this if you care. I mean, the frontline new UI thing is cool. I think that's a great change. I actually didn't like the map change. I was like, oh, okay, now it just looks like a triangle map from every other shooter I've played.
I mean, to be fair with that,
no, but I don't care. Like at the end of the day, I don't have a horse in that race, so I don't care.
Yeah, to be fair for that particular map, which was Shatter, that space was just empty. No one actually went out that far anyways, so why not just cut it down, save space on the servers, whatnot. I guess we're still having problems with that. I can't get a house for the life of me. But
it always comes back to the house with this guy. Always comes back to a house with this guy.
So that space wasn't needed anyways. I do like the change where these nodes that you have to go after for Shatter are going to respawn. So it's going to be always a shifting battlefield. Previously,
the Tomoliths are gone. They've been taken out.
No, they're still there.
No.
They just respawn.
The Allegan tomoliths have been removed. You can no longer occupy those for data. The icebound tomoliths now.
Yeah,
respawn.
that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. The icebound ones.
Yeah,
the icebound one. You know, previously you'd shatter them and they'd be done, and so you're keeping track of what's still available. Now they're going to respawn, so it's always a shifting battlefield. And like you said, your Allegan base of operations can't be captured, so they just chuck that out the window. So you don't have to really worry about your home base. It's all about going for the node and always being engaged. I think we have enough front lines where you're protecting yourself from overextending. This is going to, I think, encourage more diving out into the deep end. So,
big time.
I like it.
Agree, Flynn. Are you like?
I'm looking forward to
PvP at all? I don't think we've ever really delved into your PvP experience.
Yeah, I do the odd frontline. Sometimes it's for XP at the start of an expansion. Ooh. That's mostly what it is. It's probably a start of expansion or mock tombs. But yeah, Shatter's always felt like a weird map. Like if you're on the left-hand side of the map and there's just some weird traversal there. If you're caught in the wrong place, you're just not getting anywhere. You better just return to base and hope you can come out a different way.
That's fair.
So yeah, shifting the map, getting rid of the bases, so it actually feels more different. More different to the other front lines.
Then we
love.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I do love the roulette change that you're going to get series rewards, series battle pass rewards from your daily roulette. So you just have to do one. Eventually, you'll get there. So that's nice.
Then we get to actually see some of the bosses that we saw glimpses of in the trailer. Now, I've cut this footage a little bit because Yoshi P spends inordinate amounts of time like showing off the arena and stuff and talking about other details while he does so. And that's cool and all, but for the sake of B-roll here, I have cut these directly to his pool of the bosses for a little bit. So we get to see Golbez. This arena does look badass. Yes, you can fall off of it. So I'm sure we'll be seeing lots of dead comrades falling off of the Hellraiser cube here. But this looks really badass. I do like the aesthetic. I kind of like fighting on the Hellraiser cube. And Golbez, then the dragon abilities. I mean, it looks great. It looks great. I can't wait to get into this fight.
Oh yeah. But I feel more excited for this fight than I am to see the Savage fights a bit. Just because the arena looks so distinct compared to what we usually have. It feels more claustrophobic and exposed at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, we were just kind of talking about the arenas being a little bigger lately than they had been in the past. And then you look at this one and you're like, that's probably a little smaller than they have been in the past. That's going to be some tight quarters there.
Kind of like Protocar Bunker. We're like, oh, that's kind of small.
Yeah, that's kind of small, guys. I don't know.
Then we get Bunker the side line. I'll take up half of the arena.
Then we get to see some Pandemonium boss, who I have affectionately called Sheev Bro.
Wow.
Funny enough, that train of thought is what I thought for the raid gear. It's like, we're just getting a Shiva set of raid gear.
Yeah, I mean, watching, again, I love this arena. And we're going to see some of the mechanics here when Yoshi P pulls in just a second. But the similarities to Shiva fights of the past, I don't think can be ignored, nor should they be. So Sheev Bro. That's Sheev Bro.
I will say the train background reminds me of Macalania in Final Fantasy X.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Nice catch. I can see that.
Yeah, it came to me a second ago. Just sit down to go. That's Macalania.
Bet to Golbez just for a second. Yeah. How do you guys feel about Zodiark? With the rotating platform, and because we're gonna have a rotating cube.
Oh, definitely.
Well, like you was saying, Doc,
guys?
I'm expecting this cube to do weird stuff.
This is gonna do weird stuff. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, anytime you can see the third dimensions of the platform, whatever you're on, you can bet that at some point you're gonna be on those sides. I feel like that's a safe bet. And then are we gonna slide around in this arena? Of course we are. Of course we're gonna slide.
So
have some sliding around mechanics. Of course we are. But they both look great. They look great. And I really like this. So we all know like Savage is going to be a week later, right? That's their new thing. And generally, for the most part, that's been positively received by most of the community. In fact, everybody on this show, even Kronos back then and Flynn today, we all kind of agree that's actually a really good thing. But here's another good thing. Savage Raid reward changes. The mythos that was required for Savage gear is going down. It's going down. Body gear going from Mythos 4, 8 of them to 6 of them, to 6 Mythos 3s. And then leg gear going from 8 to 6, and accessories going from 4 to 3 of their corresponding Mythos. And Mythos 4 can be exchanged for Mythos 1, 2, or 3 at a 1-to-1 rate. So this, I think, is a tremendous change, but I gotta say it might be a little self-serving. It might be a little self-serving because why? Yoshi P said there's a lot of games coming out soon, so they don't want you to feel chained to 14. And by the way, we're going to keep this rate going forward. So might be, and he said he did like say not just Final Fantasy 16. So even he acknowledged, but yeah, Final Fantasy 16 is coming out and they want you to go play. They want you to go play. But they're keeping it afterwards, so I am totally all for this. This isn't... Tark, we've talked a lot on the show about a real need for gear progression and acquisition changes in the game. And this isn't solving the entire problem by any stretch of the imagination at all. It's a much deeper problem than this. But while these changes may seem small, 4 to 3, 8 to 6, 8 to 6, those are multiple runs that you could be on your alternate class or doing something else with your alternate classes to gear them up in different ways, even if you don't intend to Savage gear them. It's a time trade and a speed trade to be doing things for alternate classes or acquiring things so that your alternate classes aren't as far behind. I still think they have to do a tombstone cap change. 450 just doesn't cut it anymore. It just doesn't. But at least this shows me they're thinking along the same lines as we are.
I agree. This is all good. I thought the biggest change was moving the body piece out of the fourth fight
4
into
to 3.
the third.
Yeah.
So now you can actually get that bis. It's no longer just a trophy piece that's reserved for the weapons, which I think is a good spot. Like even in Ultimates, those weapons are just trophy pieces. They're just glamour, status symbols. So,
Doc Holiday says, "What a nice guy." Yeah, he's totally a nice guy. That's why he's doing it.
Nice guy. Yeah, not self-serving. I got my 16 already paid for. It was only $4,500.
Flynn, I know you're kind of on the newer end of Savage rating or rating in general in some cases with your group. So welcome to some lower standards, brother.
Oh, no. I thought it was nice that I was coming in already to the feet and hands being reduced. So it's nice to get the rest of it reduced a little as well.
Takao says there shouldn't be a cap, really. For a game that lets you play all the jobs on one character, you don't fully gear, but 3 before the new gear is out. So here's the thing. Like, I would be in favor of no cap, too, but I can at least understand why they put the cap there. The cap is there because they don't want people playing the game like that. That's never been Yoshi P's MO, whereas if you can get the reward in 36 hours by sitting there and playing for 30 out of those 36 hours, people will do that. They will absolutely do that. And that's never been Yoshi P's MO as far as...
Not healthy.
This is the way he wants to play. So I don't think they would ever take it out entirely. I'd be fine with it because I don't care. If you want to play for 36 hours straight and have, all your current Tombstone gear in 36 hours after the patch was release, I don't care. Take care of yourself, do your thing. But from a design standpoint, that's never been Yoshi P and Team's philosophy.
Like, it wouldn't be too bad if they just remove restrictions at the 0.5 patch. Just allow something to come
That's
off.
fair, especially with it being 4 months now, a full 4 months.
Yeah,
that could be another solution.
I mean, if you want to get
we're
really
going off
crazy,
topic.
you make the cap unique to class. But then that also makes
you run into that previous problem.
That comes with a whole set of other problems. Yeah, in which now the class can only buy its own class's gear, and it opens up another can of worms. And we actually revert. You're right. We revert back to problems we used to have. So I think the cap should be loosened. I'd be fine with it being doubled. Make it 900.
Yeah,
that cuts things in half.
I'd say
if you're not going to go crazy and like do a full, hey, this is the way we've always gotten gear, now we're going to change the way we get gear entirely. In lieu of that, cut the time in half. Put it at 900. And let it sit for a few patches and see what the data looks like afterwards.
I would go another route. If they're really concerned about people playing too much, maybe you increase it just a little bit, 500, 550, but then you lower the costs of everything. So you're not having to do that as much, and you start getting pieces sooner, and you start working on your alternate jobs sooner. But your playtime hasn't really increased to go there. So that's kind of my solution to that.
A system I reckon could work is your initial purchase is at its normal price. But then it checks something in the system, and any subsequent pieces you need to buy comes at a cheaper discount.
Yeah, that's
then your initial set of gear is still going to take you the time to work for it, but then it's easier for secondary pieces or alternate.
Yeah, they have to do something, because alt classes are a huge problem as far as gearing them up in a substantive way. If you are somebody that needs or plays with people that you need multiple classes geared up to that level. Your average player, doesn't care, right? They're gearing up to maybe 3 classes, right? They're their favorite classes. They gear them up, and really they sink all the gear on one because that's the one they progress with, and then the other 2 they just get over the subsequent patches. But there are people that play every class and would like to be able to get that tombstone gear before the next tombstone gear comes out for all of their subsequent classes. But yeah, anyway, this is a step in the right direction, I think, was the only real point I was making it. This kind of to me at least shows that they acknowledge there's a gear acquisition issue that needs to be addressed. I don't think it's the main one that needs to be addressed, because this is the Savage gear, right? And that's already a smaller percentage of players to begin with. But at least it shows they're thinking about these things. Speaking of gear, by the way, look at this fucking thing. Look at this thing.
Oh, I want that so bad.
Look at that little
My
guy.
Blue Mage armor is usually a dapper gentleman, and I just need the umbrella to look even more dapper now.
Look at that little guy. It doesn't unfold, but yes, your Blue Mage can smack enemies with it.
It needs to be a Blue Mage mount as well.
Oh, you know what? There was another piece of that whole gear change for the raids that maybe is a little under the radar. The fact that there's not going to be any duplicates.
Yeah.
So you'll never have like 2 rings or 2 earrings or 2 hands. You always get one of a different piece. So that's awesome. So there's nothing wasted until it's actually time to waste it. So.
Oh, and there's going to be a single treasure coffer appearing.
Yeah, which makes it easier for them to manage the code for duplicates.
Exactly, so that they can combine everything to one box and then roll the odds from there to ensure the duplicate stuff works. Lots of island sanctuary stuff, new ranks, visions, gathering areas in the wild, construction plots in the hideaway, item rewards, materials, new craftable items, crops, animals, outwork, handicrafts, structures, outdoor furnishings that you can place near structures, maximum of 90 slots, and special furnishings like striking dummies still not going to be supported. We already knew all of that. And furnishings in your inventory may be placed on your isle as glamours.
So you can Maui your island into oblivion.
Mm-hmm. As Yoshi P showed us.
Yeah, and enjoy another currency called Island Prisms.
This game loves its currencies.
Oh,
it definitely loves its currencies. Definitely loves its currencies. And the Criterion dungeons, I can't wait. they showed off like tons of minions and gear and mounts and a bed and
Another bed mount. Let's go.
the bed was my favorite. Like
mine was the
not
creepy
even
yokai.
Go ahead.
Not even gonna lie, I love the bed. Go ahead, Flynn.
The creepy yokai for me out of the mounts. That's what sold it. It just reminds me of Pokemon with Gengar just licking people all the time. Just like you just creep up to someone who's AFK and then just aim your character just right for when they appear.
Tark, at the FanFest, you're gonna get to try a new trial early. Special battle, the Gilded Arya, will be implemented officially at a later date.
That's a syrup.
As we head into the live letter. This looks, I love the aesthetic here.
No, yeah.
I absolutely love the aesthetic.
Flynn
And we will see a bunch of
out.
other 10th anniversary stuff coming out of the live letter as well. So stay tuned. And they'll also have the 6.4 patch reading as always. All in all, guys, I really like this live letter more than I have maybe the last 2 or 3.
Is that pictures and screenshots?
Yeah, that too. Maybe it's just Golbez, right? I got a soft spot for the guy. And like the previous ones, while I do appreciate the Fiends and like the Fiends, I wanted to see Golbez. Now I did, so my bias for FF4 might be showing here, but I really did like this live letter. And I thought they didn't go on too long. To your point, Tark, there was no 40 minutes of QVC at the end. There was
it felt off.
Oh, you didn't like it without your QVC channel.
It just felt off because it's always a bit at the end. It's like, stop talking merchandise. Come on, just give us rest announcements so we can go to sleep or whatever. Especially if it's a late one.
That said,
we have to
though,
mentally prepare ourselves for QVC.
That said, though, Tark, you feel like you need to re-roll. There's no point in being a healer now.
I mean, this is the way their high-end content is going to be. Why should I be a healer? It's not needed. We just got to figure out ways to do content without healers, right?
Yeah, what happened? What are you talking about, bro?
So the most recent Ultimate that came out, the Mega Protocol, Yoshi P said initially.
Yeah, you guys are doing okay.
You guys are
doing your thing. Oh, you quit? He's like, oh no, we quit that shit.
Yeah, we're doing Uwu. I'm playing a tank on Uwu. So yeah, I've abandoned healer. So it's not even supposed to be the most difficult. It wasn't supposed to be more difficult than DSR, but like the consensus throughout the community is, this is the most hardest content that I've ever put out. Beats DSR. So we're like, okay, so you think, how do you go against the comp? You got to have a healer, right? You got to have the tanks. They got to take that boss damage, the tank busters. Someone to heal. DPS is DPS. Boss has got to die at some point. But apparently there's a group of AP players that tracked it all out, formulated everything down, all the abilities and tank busters, and realized, you know what? We can do this without healers. We can do 3 tanks, 5 DPS, 2 of them that have reses, and we can use all of our toolkits to not have healers.
Wait.
It's an incredible feat.
Wait. Yeah, that's super cool, but I thought the fight included a healer limit break. Like a required healer limit break, basically.
Yeah. Well, there's this thing called cover that paladins can do. So they can,
Right.
So they cover the summoner and they cover the red mage. Then we know the 2 that can res, and they survive the mandated healer limit break. And then they just res everybody up. And if you time it right, everyone still has immunity for the next healer limit break. Good stuff.
Yeah. Time for you to re-roll, boss.
I know.
Time for you to re-roll.
I'll go.
It is serious. On a side note, it is seriously impressive.
Oh,
it is impressive. It is impressive. But like
on content, it took to work that out.
Yeah, on current content. Like, obviously, I'm always interested in watching, like, Warlock solos this raid boss, in World of Warcraft throughout the years and things like that. I like that type of content, but it's always like, one tier removed from current tier, or sometimes even older, right?
Ultimate Bahamut, 8 tanks.
Previously unsurvivable mechanics based on class updates have now made something survivable, and so you can go do it.
Sure.
I always like that stuff, but you don't typically see it in smaller parties, solo, trioing something that's made for 8, or throwing out the composition that the fight is made for in the current tier, particularly in the most difficult current tier of content.
Yeah.
You gotta love it. I love stuff like this.
I know there's usually a JP team that I think it might have changed for the last tier, but for every Savage, they always go in with a single tank. Every single time, they'll just prog day 1 tank, 2 healers, and 5 DPS. That's what they've done for years.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes the strategy kind of makes sense, right? It's like, hey, we assume there's going to be a DPS check in here somewhere. Let's see as much of the fight as we can with 1 tank and not have to worry about a DPS check. Like, let's just burn and survive the mechanics so we can see as many of them as possible. You got to appreciate the strategy that goes into that stuff. All right, let's talk about some other Square Enix news, starting with Final Fantasy XVI. Not a ton on the 16 front. However, we do see Game Informer has revealed their cover. This is the gold edition of the cover for Final Fantasy XVI.
Damn you Americans.
Damn,
we don't have that here in the UK.
That looks really good.
That looks amazing.
I'm like debating whether I frame my Game Informer once it comes in.
Well, so the thing is, the odds are not in your favor to get this one. Maybe you do. Like, maybe you just get lucky and get it. But this version of the cover is a limited gold cover. It's not the mass-produced cover. And really, the only difference is in the normal cover. Obviously, it's white font for Game Informer instead of gold. And Joshua and Clive are swapped. Clive is on the front cover, and Joshua's on the back, where the gold cover has Joshua on the front and Clive on the back. You're seeing it unfolded, in case you didn't know. In case you are too young to know what a paper magazine is.
As some people would say, that's spread phoenixed, okay?
Absolutely gorgeous cover. Absolutely gorgeous cover. But, I went ahead and... the hell is this? Did I put the wrong link in here? Yeah.
Of course you did.
Yeah, of course I did. Echoes of Mana, another one bites the dust, gang.
Womp womp.
Another Square Enix mobile game bites the dust. This one lasted like 2 years, though. 2 years.
That's something.
That's like double the average lifespan of Square Enix mobile.
Double of the first soldier, baby. What up?
This one's kind of sad, though. Like, people... I never played it. I'm just not a mobile gamer, but people genuinely liked this game. And the way the story was told and wrapped up and things. Like, obviously, I'm not happy with it. Yeah, it's kind of sad. Did you ever play this one, Flynn?
No, the only one I've actually played is Opera Omnia.
Ah.
That one's good.
And luckily, that's one that's still going. But it's nice
Chat has
nice
me double checking something. I thought the game was about 2 years old.
Just over a year.
Launched on April 27th, 2024. Or, I'm sorry, 2024. 2022. So, yeah, Final Max, sorry, you are right. So, it is the exact lifespan of a Square Enix mobile game. 12 to 14 months, and then kill it. So, my apologies. For some reason, my brain... Yeah, right? You tried the Mana game, decided it wasn't quite for you. Hey, I got a rumor for you.
Ooh, I like rumors.
Tell me what you think of this. We saw Warner Brothers do Multiverses, right? That was like their mashup Super Smash Brothers, competitor.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't know what the hell's going on with that. They closed it down, and it's supposed to be back in early 2024. We'll see. But
they made a mistake with the beta, but whatever.
By not doing anything with it.
It should be a beta. Like, keep it open for like a couple weeks and then shut it down, and then.
No,
Bring it
they went
back.
ahead and sold battle passes for 3 seasons.
I know.
Um,
They made a mistake.
They made money.
That's not a mistake. Shut up.
Mistakes were made.
That's not a mistake.
We won't hash over.
The rumor is that Disney is working on one now, which kind of makes sense, and you kind of like maybe go, wow, they haven't done one already? Like, how did Disney watch Smash become the success that it is and not go, hey, we got a shit ton of characters?
Recently, they decided to do a kart racer, you know?
The rumor is that Disney wants to do one, and they're working with Square Enix on it, and it's called Disney Domination. Take it with a grain of salt. But the rumor is Disney Domination, up to like 55 characters at launch, spread across a single-player campaign that's got like 60 stages. There's going to be a ton of online modes, including 12-player online battles, voice chat battles, Disney Dominion missions, and a bunch more. There's a lounge where players can share like custom stages and content. Unique art style. It looks like something out of Unreal Engine 5 and should be quote-unquote edgy. And reportedly, it's being developed by Square Enix, but that is not entirely confirmed. What do you think, Tark?
I'm sorry, this name has to change. Like, you put Disney and Domination together. It just, they don't make. I see Mickey in the black leathers with the spikes, and I'm not shaming anybody. You do you.
Don't play Kingdom Hearts, right?
Hey, man, don't yuck
It's
people's yum,
already in
man.
leather.
I'm not yucking people's yum. I'm just
Yeah, don't
like
yuck
these
people's
two
mum.
things. Just they're not a good sandwich. That's where my head went, and I just see memes coming just endlessly for this name. The name needs to change, but like the fact that it hasn't already happened, it blows my mind. The fact that they're possibly working with Square Enix is kind of well, yeah, they've got Kingdom Hearts. You know, they've got history working together on 3+. How many games was in Kingdom
Yeah,
Hearts?
but that relationship's always
20?
been pretty contentious behind the
True.
scenes. Like, it's not
But
like
maybe
they
refresh
it's
with
not like
Kingdom Hearts
Square
4.
Enix and Nintendo, who have basically been, you know, sleeping together for 30 years at this point.
Yeah.
You know, Disney and Square have kind of butted heads on the whole Kingdom Hearts thing from time to time. Not that they have a bad relationship, but it's not always been smooth sailing, let's say.
I think it's all been refreshed with Kingdom Hearts 4. I think they came to an agreement of things, and if they're working together and this is going to happen, awesome. It'd probably be the first battler like this that I've actually played.
Mr. Final Max says Nintendo had to sleep on the couch for a 10-year period. Yeah, but then Square Enix had to sleep on the couch for like 4 years when they almost bankrupted themselves with Spirits Within. So, yeah,
That was a cardboard box moment.
Nintendo was like, you aren't bringing money home right now. You just delayed Final Fantasy X and had a tremendous box office flop. You need to sleep on the couch, and you're going to eat ramen noodles for the next 6 months. All right.
And then
Final Fantasy X came out, and Enix came back to the table, and you merged. Come on back to bed, big boy.
Lord.
I like that we've now personified these big companies as people
Oh,
having
yeah.
a sexual relationship.
I mean, they have the emotions of freaking toddlers sometimes, so why not?
Now I can't get the picture of Elsa out of my in BDSM gear out of my head, Tark. I didn't
You're
even
welcome.
take the title that way till you said
Hey,
it. And,
let it go. Just let it go.
Yeah,
Talk to
please.
Raideo in this chat as always.
Yeah. Our safe word is let it go.
Oh my god.
What a great day. What a great day. One time my safe word was, oh God. I almost died that day. I will tell you, I almost died that day. It was not a wise safe word. It was not a wise safe word. Hey, Square Enix is on the prowl. They're looking for new partners, baby.
Jesus Christ.
Not only does
no,
Square
hey.
Enix, not only does Square Enix,
While you can't talk us out, Mike, we need to reference that Final Fantasy XI can drink in the US, and I need a drink after this.
not only does Square Enix want to make bigger games, right? More impactful games, and they need to. And better games. Now, these are all their words, not mine. I'm not bashing them. These are their words. They want to make more, bigger, and better games. their financials were not great. They just released their financials, and basically it was down across the board. Like, they're not closing tomorrow. Don't worry about that. But, like, even the MMO side of business was down, and that's to be expected. You didn't have an expansion for 14 or Dragon Quest in the last fiscal year, so you expect that. But they did reference, like, hey, we're keeping people engaged through other things, and us players are kind of like, what are those other things? Like, you keep telling your shareholders you're keeping us engaged with other things. I don't know what the other things are. But they want to make things with more global appeal and better set up their pipeline to enable regular launches of major titles so that they stop this kind of trend arc that they've been in where it's, hey, this year Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 comes out, and then next year our finances can't possibly compete year over year because we don't have a big release along that same tier going with it. This is all well and good, and honestly probably should have been the approach for a while now.
A decade ago?
Right. Should have been the approach for a while. But as part of this, they plan that they may create and acquire new studios after just having sold a bunch of studios to the Embracer Group, who now just signed a huge deal with Amazon over Tolkien rights, and now they're making a Lord of the Rings MMO again. Not to be confused with the Lord of the Rings MMO that Amazon was previously making in a joint partnership with Raideo Technologies before it was bought out by Tencent, and two alpha companies like Tencent and Amazon couldn't get along, and so they scrapped the whole project. This is a different project for a Lord of the Rings MMO from Amazon. But yeah, back to Square, they may acquire and or create more companies again. Now, to be fair, they don't say Western companies. Remember, Tark, that was like kind of the whole reason they offloaded those other companies. They said that they didn't want to invest there anymore. It seems weird, though, to be saying that after selling some studios.
Especially if only 300 million, right? Like, what are you going to do? You're going to try to buy Konami for 200 million and then flip it in a year or so?
Yeah.
Like the maybe this is why the CEO is no longer going to be the CEO. It's like your head for business is just gone. Bye-bye. Like the whole pipeline issue should have been an issue, something that was addressed like a decade ago. You know, have one big title every year and then a smattering of little titles throughout. What we've been getting is like 2 or 3 major titles, and then the next 2 years, like a smash of little titles that apparently don't meet expectations. So you're going to sell the studio. So like, they need to get their head on straight or just get bought out, whatever. I don't know.
Final Max says acquiring is probably a bad idea for Square, and I agree on that front, Flynn. They just don't have the capital for acquisition right now. They have the capital to be acquired right now, more than do acquiring. But spinning up internal studios, I don't have a problem with that. I just feel like Square has always seemed to viewed all of its releases as the big marquee release. Right? And then they come out and say it failed to meet expectations, whether it was Hitman, whether it was Tomb Raider, whether it was Forspoken. Like, Final Fantasy. It's one thing to look and say, hey, we need to make bigger, more impactful games, and maybe we only release 4 a year instead of 15 a year. But those 4 a year are going to sell like gangbusters, right? Because we're going to sink our heart and soul into them, a la the days of Square gone by. We're going to go back to that. But they kind of always had this, hey, it says Square Enix on it, therefore it's probably going to be a blockbuster approach lately, Flynn. And maybe this changes things. I'm not exactly super hopeful by what they tell investors on a conference call where they have to report bad financials. You really just want to say anything positive and get the hell out of that call. I've been on them. But maybe this does lead to a little more focus, a little more polish, a little more passion.
Hopefully we get to the point that Yoshi P's influence is good enough that the arrogance behind the scenes is starting to fade. Because that's always been the thing. We are Square Enix. We make the games that look the best. We are the ones that push the RPGs. And that is 1.0 downfall is just we have to make the biggest and the best. And the arrogance just destroys you.
We'll
But
see.
like the fact that
To have that, go ahead.
go on, Doc.
All right, I was gonna say, it's to Mike's point. Like, if you're gonna have that pipeline where you have 3, maybe 4 AAA titles, so you're really focused in on that. Like, you're gonna have 15 to 20 AAA level development groups. Like, I think maybe do they have maybe 2 or 3 at this point? I just don't see them getting there. Maybe they can do.
Yeah, and I was just using the numbers as an example. It's not exactly Square's portfolio that I was speaking to when I said 4 versus 15, and that was because the thing is, Square can't focus on like 4 big titles. That's just unrealistic, right?
Yeah,
like they can't do 4 Final Fantasy VII-esque type projects at the same time. They just can't. Or 4 Final Fantasy XVI type projects at the same time. I think the problem is, and what I haven't heard anybody admit, is that I feel like they've been sliding away from where their bread is buttered, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, there are those, and I understand why, right? Yoshi P has said as much, talking about the development of Final Fantasy XVI and why he wanted it to be more an action title versus turn-based title, and why he wanted to do this and this, because they need to expand the audience. They can't depend on the people that are 25 to 45, the us's of the world, that have grown up with Square Enix, financing the entire future of the company, any more than, 20 to 50 years based on our lifelines, right? So you have to capture younger people too, but not at the expense of where your bread is buttered, I think. And I feel like Square's maybe focused a little too much on, hey, we need to open up the younger side of our demographic. You do, but not at the expense of the older side of the demographic, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know where I heard this recently, but Square Enix was a place that us Western gamers went to play an RPG that had a distinct Asian feel, a distinct Japanese feel to it, with the way the storytelling is. And we've just had Octopath Traveler 2, and that's as that vibe.
That's that classic vibe, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so well received in the West. They need, as you're saying, they need to cater to what made Square Enix. As much as I'm looking forward to 16, it is a Japanese take on a European style high fantasy, but we know it's, with the team that's involved, it's going to have that Japanese flavor to it. It's going to have that thing that should make it feel like a Square Enix title, not just a Final Fantasy title, but a Square Enix title.
Yeah, Final Max saying, I don't even think action RPGs or shooters are even that appealing to a lot of our younger demographics. That could be, yeah, that's definitely an argument we can have a different time on a different show. But like it or not, that is what Square Enix and even Yoshi P think. Yoshi P said exactly that on why 16 skewed to action. And speaking about developing titles at a faster clip and bigger, more important titles, Dragon Quest XII has already set a record, and really all we know about it is a logo and that they have a prototype of the battle system, which is a hybrid turn-based with something else. We haven't seen the something else yet. That's all we know. And the logo got a color update a few weeks ago. That was it. But it has set a record for the biggest development gap between Dragon Quest numbered series. The gap between Dragon Quest XI and 12 is already longer than the gap between any 2 previous games in the mainline series. Prior to this, the record was a 5-year gap between Dragon Quest X and 11, with 4.5-year gaps between 6 and 7 and 9 and 10. So here's the thing. While I think that's a very interesting number, I think it's a little misleading, because to me, saying the comparing it to the gap between 9 and 10 or 10 and 11, I don't think you can really do that, right? Like, you could compare it to the gap between 9 and 11, but 10 was the MMO. And that's kind of like a... That's a totally different audience. I mean, technically speaking, they're not wrong.
Shut down for a good while as well.
Yeah. I mean, technically speaking, between numbered mainline series, they're not wrong. But I kind of view the gap between 9 and 11 as the biggest, because 10, although mainline and numbered, was an MMO, and that really just kind of throws your data out. But technically speaking, it now has that record. Let's slide over and do Love It or Leave It. Technically speaking. Technically speaking. Love It or Leave It is the way we end every Love It or Leave It is the way we end every episode of the Relic Grind here. It's where I give you something Square Enix related. Could be a game, a feature in a game, a press release, something they did, something they said, something tangentially related to Square Enix, just because I wanted to talk about it and it's my show. And you tell me whether you love it, want more of it, leave it, never see it or touch it again. No fence setting here. Of course, this being a live letter review episode. Flynn, love it or leave it, live letter 77.
Just love it. And the fact is making me read Dante Inferno, the Divine Comedy again. Gotta love it just for that.
Tark.
I'm going to say love it. We have had discussions about, do they do too many live letters? And I was in agreement that I think we do. But this is the live letter I like. You know, a trailer, some screenshots, a little bit of gameplay, even if it's, you know, nonsensical and what's going on. But this is the type of live letter I like. They need to cut out some of the fluff live letters, but
PvP did go on a little long for my taste in this one, but I can understand they were making map changes and stuff. I'm gonna love it too. This one really did it for me. I think I would have liked it more actually if we didn't have the last one.
That's the one I think needs to go away. Is that there's like 3 per cycle. You got the review of the previous, then you got what's coming up, and then you have the one we had, which is the screenshots. And
yeah,
I think they need to get rid of
although there were some topics that I wish they would have shortened just because of personal interest level. Like, I don't care about PvP enough to want to talk about it as much as they did, but I get it. They were changing a whole map. They were putting a new UI in there and stuff. It was a little longer. Baron giving me shit. It lasted longer than a second. I give them at least 10 seconds to run through the PvP changes. But
at least it wasn't an hour on Triple Triad.
Yeah, yes, famously. Yeah, famously. That's going to do it for us here today on the Relic Grind. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, turn on those notifications. Let us know what you thought about the live letter, 6.4, and all the other fun stuff we talked about. We will be back next Thursday for another episode of the Relic Grind, even though we won't have Saturday's Gaming Gumbo show for the next 2 weeks due to Final Fantasy trading card game stuff. And if you are a follower of that, make sure you're following our Twitter and FFTCG_linkshell on Twitter. Just saying, maybe it's something to look at. Some stuff coming soon. Until next time, Flynn, where can everybody find you?
You can find me over at twitch.tv/Within Crisis. I will be streaming probably Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week with a podcast episode potentially happening Wednesday night talking about live action role playing.
Ooh, LARPing.
Some LARPing. All right. Ooh. What about you, Mr. Tarkoth?
Find me Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all at Tarkoth Gaming. We'll be putting up a video on YouTube. We'll be going over the preliminary patch notes that come out tomorrow. And then here on Ready Check Radio, you can find me playing episode Gladio, finally, for Saturday night. It's going to be fun.
Sounds good. I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me personally right there at MagicMan1, but more importantly, follow at RC Radio, RAIDEO on Twitter, and you'll know every time we go live with a podcast, a stream, Final Fantasy TCG Locals, or we're just hanging out. We'd like you to come hang out with us. Until next time, gang, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers. Enjoy your new robe.